Welcome back, everybody. Today we have a really cool episode. If you have ever been diagnosed or think you have anxiety, OCD, ADHD, depression, anything like that, we're going to be talking about a really cool, different kind of way that you might be able to fix those symptoms that is not therapy and not traditional medication. Also, while we're here, if you've been loving this podcast, we would so appreciate it if you would subscribe, like one of our videos, share a video with a friend, comment on our social media. So we've done a bad job of telling people to do that. So I just thought I would let them know they should subscribe on whatever platform they're listening to.
Perfect. Yeah, we're going to talk about some testing options that you've probably never heard of. And first, just for everyone out there who's like, do I have anxiety? Do I have depression? Do I have ADHD? Do I have OCD? Or have I maybe been misdiagnosed, since those have so many shared overlapping characteristics? Katie, what are some of the biggest symptoms that you look for someone dealing with those?
Yeah, so I would say definitely like racing thoughts, a lot of ruminating about things. If it's OCD, obsessions and compulsions are pretty straightforward. Feeling unmotivated, burnt out, feeling like you just aren't yourself, you can't get anything done, general things like that. And also, if you've been to therapy before or you've taken medication and you feel like maybe you've seen some progress, but just not enough progress, then this is something that you might want to try.
I like that. Yeah, and for the chronic health populations, I feel like signs of these can be like you're dreading getting out of your bed in the morning. Like you're dreading going through the day. You're not excited about your life anymore. If any of that's starting to happen, we're probably treading into this territory. And a lot of people with health issues can actually have like adverse reactions to the meds, which I know you've seen, Katie, too,
Yeah.
where you can feel way worse. Or like people have even, gotten suicidal thoughts on a med that was supposed to help. So having these kind of not intended reactions to meds
Yeah.
is pretty common, actually.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's like it either works for you, at least what I've seen, either the meds like SSRIs work for you or they make you suicidal. There's not a lot of in between that I've seen, and that's terrible and really scary. And so,
Yeah.
if you've had that experience and you're terrified of meds, then this is more of the holistic alternative route, supplement route. So it hopefully is a lot less scary and intimidating to you. So let's dive in. Rachel, what is this test that people can get done?
Yeah. So it's a neurotransmitter urine test. Neurotransmitters are your brain chemicals like serotonin, dopamine, adrenaline. We can actually just have you pee 4 times a day and they average those levels together. And then we can see what brain chemical levels someone's body is making, because your brain chemicals are like the biggest factor behind anxiety, depression, OCD, ADHD.
Yeah, and I know if you're someone who has like a diagnosed mental health disorder, you've heard so many times you have a chemical imbalance in your brain. And yeah, you do. And this is what we're actually referring to when we're talking about that chemical imbalance. It's neurotransmitters.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people love to do this test because, like Katie said, if you're already feeling really crappy, you don't want to roll the dice with a new med that could make you feel worse. Like you can't afford to feel worse. So a lot of times this test lets us bypass the guessing, because we can actually see on this test, is your dopamine high or low? Is your serotonin high or low? Do you have enough calming GABA? And then we can specifically support those actual results versus on an SSRI. We're just guessing that someone's issue is from low serotonin. What if they have high serotonin? And then restarting the med is going to make you feel terrible. So hey,
Yeah.
let's be a lot more precise.
This seems like such an easy thing to do. Like, why?
Yeah.
First of all, I had never heard of this before me and Rachel started talking about it because I had a couple clients that I was feeling really, really stuck with. Like, they had made some progress, but we had stalled and I had done everything I really knew to do. And Rachel mentioned this, and I was like, why, what? Just keep it up? Like, why is no one talking about this? So, why is this such a like unknown thing?
Yeah, I mean, like, good question, because it's amazing. And I think it's just because our mainstream medical system determines what's common and what's not based on what insurance covers. And insurance just happens to not cover this kind of lab. We have to do this through a functional specialty lab. And one day, maybe they'll start covering this. But yeah, just because it's through a functional lab, it's not part of the toolkit that conventional doctors access. And even in naturopathic school, like we went through a full, 4 or 5 year med school. This was not taught to us either, even in our naturopathic curriculum. So yeah, it's just like a really niche thing, but it's really effective and like very accurate to test these. Yeah.
Yeah. That just the first thing that popped into my head was like, "Ugh, big pharma.
I know. I know.
Pharma's fault. It's always their fault."
I know. Yeah. And I also, I think that like they say it takes 20 years for something to get into the textbooks even. And we're probably still in those 20 years. Like I do think that this is a newer, within the past 10 years thing. So we haven't had our 20 years for medicine to catch up.
Okay, so for example, say that I have someone with really bad anxiety. I send them to you. They take this urine test. Give me an example of like what might come up and what you would do.
Yeah. So with bad anxiety, there's so many different pictures. One example could be GABA, which is our calming, relaxing, grounding sleep neurotransmitter. That might be super low, which means our brain has no brake, no off button, has nothing to push down with. And we might also be low in our other calming hormones like taurine and glycine. So all those brain chemicals might be super low. And then also we might be super high in our anxiety amp up gas pedal hormones like PEA or our adrenaline or even like our dopamine. So those can all be super imbalanced in someone with anxiety.
What about for like OCD? So, and we'll talk about this, but I actually have sent someone to Rachel that had pretty serious OCD. And what with that kind of thing, what might you see in a test?
Yeah. Usually serotonin is going to be super dysregulated. So it'll either be super high or super low. And then dopamine is usually like super high because dopamine is what, or low again, actually, because either one can have a paradoxical reaction. And
Sure.
dopamine is what drives our like brain reward seeking behavior, and completing that circuit when you have an obsession or a compulsion is really tied to your dopamine.
That makes sense. I could see that every time you did a compulsion and it stopped the anxiety, you got a hit of dopamine, which kind of
Yes.
makes the cycle keep going. Okay.
Yeah.
So then once they've done this test and you look at the results, what are
Yeah.
you doing? Are you just prescribing supplements? What all do you do?
Yeah. So usually recommending supplements. There's different types. So there's like different amino acid proteins because some of the ones that come back low, like GABA, we can actually directly take that as a supplement. So instead of having to take a med that modulates your GABA, like a lot of sleep meds or like gabapentin or something, we can actually just take the natural GABA itself, like taking melatonin instead of taking a medication that's supposed to make your body make your melatonin. So that's an example. I can give an example of like a specific someone that I saw who we really needed to shift their serotonin and they're in an active state. And I can just kind of like walk through. This wouldn't apply to everyone. So like we're not saying that this cures anything. FDA says none of these things can technically be cured necessarily. But I can walk through. Like, do we think
Yeah,
that would be
yeah,
interesting? Okay.
yeah, I do.
Yeah. So like number one, I make sure like you need to be hydrating because your brain, if it shrinks even 1% from you being dehydrated, then that's going to affect your perception of life. And then also it's going to affect how your body's neurotransmitters are being sent and how your cells are communicating. And then people are always surprised by this. All of these amino acids that are measured on this neurotransmitter test that we're talking about mostly come from protein. So like if you're not eating protein 3 meals a day, starting your breakfast with protein, regular meals with protein with every meal, then your body might quite literally not be getting the raw building blocks to even make the stuff that you need.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I
Yeah.
would have never thought of that.
Yeah. So that one's huge. And I will say that if you don't eat meat, it is harder, but there are replacements we can use to make sure that we get enough building blocks. And
Much protein. When you say like eat enough protein, what's enough?
yeah, I recommend a palm size, so the palm of your hand with lunch and with dinner. So like
Okay.
one hamburger patty or more. And then for breakfast, at least half of that. Could be eggs, could be meats. But most people with, mental health, the mental health stuff we're talking about, do way better with actually eating meat or eggs for breakfast every day.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. And then people don't love this one, but limiting caffeine or stimulants. Because if you're taking, Adderall because you have chronic fatigue or you're drinking a ton of coffee every morning, that actually pushes your dopamine and your adrenaline higher and it makes everything worse.
Awesome.
Yes, the only exceptions to this are if we're low in dopamine and adrenaline, then sometimes it's actually almost considered a treatment to take caffeine or stimulants. So it's true that again, this is why it's individual for everyone. And then early morning sunlight and making sure that you're not getting blue light at night. Like,
Mhm.
so this means like specifically you need to have either a UV mimicking happy light or get sunlight from through the windows or going outside, usually within like 40 minutes of waking up, because your brain has to know when to start signaling your brain chemicals, or else there might be low all day because it didn't get the signal.
Yeah. And I've heard like if you're having trouble sleeping or whatever, that helps your circadian rhythm to get morning sunlight and then not get the
Yeah.
artificial blue light at night.
Yeah, because then you're getting your timed gas pedal surge when you're supposed to in the morning instead of at night when you're supposed to be sleeping. Because
Gotcha.
your brain,
Okay.
it doesn't know when. So it's kind of like petering it out during the whole day instead of timing it when it wants to.
I was gonna say, what about supplements?
Yes. So for this person that I was working with who had really high gas pedal tone, like was super amped up in what we saw in their neurotransmitters, L-theanine is an amazing supplement because it comes in and it balances and modulates. There's not a lot of pharmaceutical prescription things that modulate, which means bring to center, but L-theanine can actually tone and bring to center some of your neurotransmitters. So
Okay.
it's a really safe bet for a lot of people because it's usually not going to push you over the edge or deplete you.
Is
Yeah.
that why? So like I know adaptogens were really like trendy for a while because they kind of everything that I heard was like it'll do whatever you need it to do.
Yeah.
Is that kind of the same thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. L-theanine would be like our mental health adaptogen.
Cool. Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. I like that.
Yeah.
I'll start telling people that.
Yeah. And I'm seeing L-theanine now in drinks. So they're putting L-theanine in the mocktails.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's like calming, it's relaxing. If you're sad, it might make you feel a little better, a little happier, that kind of thing. If you're anxious, makes you like tone down. It's pretty
Hmm.
cool. Yeah. So that's one that I, usually recommend to people based on what their test is. Not a good fit for everyone. And then supplement wise, too, like again, we can actually replace literally if GABA is low, you can take GABA. And then there's other things like you can't take pure dopamine, but like people can take mucuna extract, which has L-dopa in it, which would
Never
like
heard of that.
convert
Interesting.
directly to dopamine in your body, basically.
You just know so many weird supplements that your average person has never heard of.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a
Okay, so
lot.
you can take these weird supplements. They're not weird. You can take these lesser known supplements and they will modulate the neurotransmitters, basically.
Or put like, yeah, mucuna with the L-dopa, like that's purely driving up L-dopamine. So
Okay,
we can either suppress, we can drive up, or we can modulate with
gotcha.
our
Okay,
supplements. Yeah.
cool.
And there's so many. Like there are literally like 300 in my brain that I'm like racking through, like, combing through when I'm sorting out like, okay, are they waking in the night or not? Is the anxiety after food or before? Like that kind of thing. Like it kind of narrows down what
Okay.
herb would be best.
Okay, so this is like
Yeah.
actually you would need to know a lot about this person as
To choose
well.
the best, like I'm
Yeah.
sure that like it could, yeah. I mean, there's probably some things that would benefit a majority of people, but to really get, because usually if you're doing this kind of thing, you feel pretty bad. So to really get
Yeah.
the max
Yeah.
benefit, then yeah, it's going to be really individual.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk about my client that I did actually send to you.
Yeah.
someone with OCD, and you saw them, and I saw them about 6 weeks after they started working with you. And like, I don't, I wasn't skeptical that it was going to work and like that we would see some improvement. I just didn't know how much. But let me tell you, and I don't know if that's how it works with everyone. When they came in, it was almost immediate. I could tell a pretty big difference. And it was just in their overall demeanor, the word choice they were using. They were just generally more optimistic about things. And I had never heard them talk like that before. And then
Aw.
also, they were someone that held a lot of tension and stress in their body. And so they would sit in a really rigid way, or when they would get anxious, like they would clench their fists. And I could just see it sitting across from them that they were clenching their fists because their knuckles would get white. Like, I'm not talking like they looked a little stressed, like it was very apparent. And that was gone. And I literally said to them, I'm noticing a huge difference. And they said, really? And I started pointing all this stuff out to them, and they were like, oh my gosh, yeah. Like, I haven't been doing any of that for the last couple of weeks. And so for that person, like I said, their OCD is pretty severe. It had already started making a really big difference for them.
That's amazing. Because, like, I mean, think about the timing that is allotted for pharmaceuticals. Sometimes they'll be like, your SSRI isn't going to kick in for 8 weeks to 3 months. Like, so even, and I mean, it's the kind of like with this stuff, like, I do think it kicks in much faster, the naturopathic stuff, but also you do get even more benefit over more time sometimes. So that's pretty cool. That's like amazing if that was only within 6 weeks.
Yeah. And then,
Yeah.
so I guess my next question is, once they get to a good place, like their symptoms have really kind of resolved, then should they retest? Do you just kind of taper them off? Do they take this stuff for the rest of their life? Like, what do you do?
Yeah. It depends on, yeah. I mean, so for example, if someone had a really stressful life event or an acute health physical flare or something, then maybe they just needed something to get through that period. And then we could go to as needed with stuff and be like, here's your tools for as needed. But if it's a lifelong thing or something you've had for years, then there's a lot of genetics that determine your brain chemistry. So, I mean, a lot of this stuff, there's not necessarily like side effects. People only feel better. There's no long-term harm with taking it. And so, in that case, like if that was me, I would opt to stay on it forever because it would be like compensating for genetics in a world that already is taxing our genetics with toxin levels and stress we can't control. Um, but like there are quite a few times when someone did only need a higher dosing for 3 months and then stuff reset. And then even if they're going to stay on it for life, they can do a lower, what I call maintenance dosing.
Mhm.
And for
Yeah.
the retesting, that's kind of up to them based on their response. Because if you feel great, there's not really need to retest. But
Mm.
unless it's something that we need to monitor, like you can't take L-DOPA long term unmonitored. But if it's like you don't feel good or something shifted, like I got sleepy and calm when I used to have anxiety, but then all of a sudden now I'm actually like too motivated, even though I've never been motivated in my life. Like then we're like, okay, maybe your dopamine is increasing, even though that was low, even though we didn't even target your dopamine, because
Okay.
stuff can indirectly shift. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
but like if they're just like, yeah, I feel a lot better, then there's really no need to retest unless you just
Yeah.
want to.
Unless it's a supplement with potential long-term impacts. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Which is few and far between for like what we can, for like the tools we have for mental health. We usually don't have to reach for those more aggressive ones.
I would say, I don't think anyone really like this is probably not going to be the first thing that they go do, but if you have never been to a therapist or any kind of mental health professional and you're just like, I think I'm anxious, maybe, or I feel off, but I really don't know what's going on, I think it would be helpful to go see a mental health professional and see if they can give you like some idea of what might be going on, just so you're more equipped with the knowledge so that you can then tell someone like, Rachel, hey, this is what's going on, or I have this diagnosis. And really, a diagnosis isn't even that important, but just some knowledge about what's going on is helpful. before you go into doing something like this. But if you're like, I've been to therapy for years, I know I have generalized anxiety disorder, major depressive disorder, whatever, then go ahead, just go.
Yeah. And on that note, Katie, how do you help people figure out if this is circumstantial? Like it's a long-term thing, like a job that's stressful. Like how do you help them decide if it's circumstantial or more like, this could be your brain chemistry?
Yeah. So, I mean, number one is like, have you had any big life changes? And did this start then? If it's like, yeah, someone died, or I now have a chronic illness and this is new to me, or something really traumatic happened, then that's more likely circumstantial. And we, with therapy, can probably work through that and get you where you need to be. Not that this stuff wouldn't be helpful, like in addition, it totally would. But usually the people that I'm working with are like, I've been this way my whole life, or in my entire adult life, I've felt anxious. And I've tried all the coping mechanisms, they don't make me feel better. I've tried medication, it kind of helps. I've tried therapy and like, yeah, it helps, but it to me, it's like with people that I work with, we get to a point and we kind of stall. And it's
Mhm.
better. They're like, well, I'm better than I was before, but I can see there's more room for improvement, and
Mhm.
talk therapy not fixes, helps a lot of things, but it doesn't fix everything. If you have something going on with your brain chemistry, we can talk till we're blue in the face. It's not going to fix it. I can give you coping mechanisms that might give you some marginal improvement, but it's not going to fix it. And so, yeah, it's mostly people that have had something going on like their whole life, or like for as long as I can remember.
That makes sense. Yeah. So looking at the historical pattern and yeah, their life
Mhm.
events. Yeah.
Yeah, if it's something brand new that came on really quickly, usually
Yeah.
something traumatic happened, and that's something that usually in like a few months you're going to see a pretty big improvement, or like
Yeah.
maybe within 6 months. And then if nothing's improving, then okay, maybe like we should look into some other stuff.
Yeah. And that makes sense. I do think that the neurotransmitter testing is more helpful for people who are having more longer term stuff because we don't even need neurotransmitter testing to help with choosing the supplements that could help with like grief or if
Right.
you're, yeah, having insomnia because of a big loss or something. That's not like, usually we can do that even without testing. And with the chronic illness, like usually there's inflammation affecting the brain and we can affect, even change a lot of that even before without testing too. So that makes sense. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. This kind of neurotransmitter stuff, I feel like is probably going to get more popular in the future. And so I just want to make sure that people know that there are different types of urine neurotransmitter testing. And I am not a fan of the ones that are just taking one single collection during the day. Like we want to be averaging, like your body's making different levels of hormones at different points in the day. So it
Mhm.
usually doesn't matter so much like the timing of your cycle or anything, but you do want one that is going to test like multiple times a day and then average them together.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, here's a good question. How does someone get this test? Do they need to see a naturopathic doctor? Can they order it themselves? How do they
Yeah.
like get the testing?
You'd have to go through a practitioner, and usually there it is mostly naturopathic or holistic people offering this, although this is a niche area. So like a lot of doctors don't offer this. But if anyone ever does want to work with me, I do offer this. I do this test.
Yeah.
But yeah, usually you do have to get it. I mean, you have to get it through a practitioner.
Okay. We'll leave Rachel's website below. So if you want to get this done, you can work with her. What's the name of the test? I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's literally neurotransmitter test.
Oh,
It's the neurotransmitter test.
okay. So no fancy name.
Nope. Yeah.
All right. Anything else about this test before we move into our health trend audit of the week?
Just make sure that you're working with someone who knows what they're doing because
Yeah.
if you're taking meds or even certain supplements, like you need to be interpreting the test, knowing the meds are like knowing that you're on them. And like we can either purposely have you stay on them or go off of them depending on the info we're trying to gain. I would not just seek out willy-nilly someone who's like here without anything. We usually want to be, do we want you taking your meds or not? Like we need to decide that before you take the test.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Okay, so what's our health trend audit of the week?
Okay.
You sent this to me and
Yes. Okay. I can't even remember where I read this. It was somewhere online. And actually, I think it was a comment on a social media video. And it was like, someone was talking about how they dry their hands in the bathroom, like in a public space, and using paper towels versus like shaking off versus using the hand blow dryer. And apparently, the hand blow dryer concentrates all of the germy air in the bathroom and is blowing it directly on your hands. And so I looked into this, and it's not like it's something that's been like researched a ton, but from what has been researched, like, yes, people who use blow dryers over paper towels have more germs on their hand.
that's so gross. Also, who only shakes their hands off?
I don't know, but if somewhere only has a blow dryer now and no paper towels, I might start only shaking my hands off after reading
I
this.
mean, okay. So I would think that like the paper towels, if they're at all exposed, like the bottom of them, or
Right.
it's like one that was hanging down, like that would
Right.
be germy. Honestly, I've never even thought about that either. I just dry my hands. But that
Yeah.
is like highly concerning. And now
Yep.
every time I see a blow dryer and a hand blow dryer, I'm gonna be grossed out.
Yeah. Like I love the environment, but like paper towels also, the friction actually rubs germs off your hands better. So
Oh,
like they are, and then you can use them. I use them to open the door, like to touch the door
I
handle.
do too. I do
Yeah.
too.
So I hate when the trash can isn't right by the door. I'm like, come on, like it can't be across the room.
I'm like, oh, I'm gonna throw it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this actually reminds me of a Gilmore Girls episode. So I'm like a huge Gilmore Girls fan. I've seen every single episode probably 6 or 7 times.
And to
Like I
add
have
to
a
this, when I just saw Katie on Monday, she was wearing a Stars Hollow sweatshirt.
yeah, I was. I got it off Etsy if you want Gilmore Girls merch. But there's an episode where Rory is on this really bad date and she's like really struggling to come up with things to talk about. And she starts telling this guy about urine mints. And he's like, what? And she said, yeah, when you're at a restaurant, people like tend to go to the bathroom before they leave and then they go get a mint from the bowl of mints. And they've studied these mints and there's urine on them because people are not washing their hands when they're leaving the bathroom. And so she has this whole story on urine mints and
That's
it's just
hilarious.
funny. It
I
just made me
vaguely
think of
remember
that.
this.
And then I was like, so the hand blow dry is for like the urine mints. Good.
Also, I'm sorry, but that's mostly the men. Like, can we talk about how men just don't, I mean, they're just directly contacting with their hands and
Yep.
they're not using paper towels or anything. I don't know. This is mostly
Oh,
men.
so many dudes don't wash their hands after they pee. And they're like, well, I wash my hands after I'm poop. And I'm like, okay. But
If
like,
anything, there's more padding. If anything, there's a toilet paper barrier if you're going number two versus like number one. Like you're just touching this like highly bacteria area of your body. And then you're touching doors and then you're shaking hands with people. Yeah. Yeah. So men either need to start using toilet paper in every scenario and there's no direct contact, or they need to wash their hands religiously.
I don't get why they don't wash their hands.
It's
I don't.
wild.
That
Yeah.
would gross me out. I can't go to the bathroom, especially at a public place, and not wash my hands.
Yeah. No.
I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah. But
Anyways,
anyway, we don't use hand blow dryers anymore.
we've canceled them. You can't use them
Yeah.
anymore. Just shake your hands off and
Yes. Yes. And
wet
like,
hands.
although, and I did just a caveat on that, the cleaner the bathroom, then the fewer germs are in the air. But like, no amount of cleaning a bathroom can necessarily reduce the fecal matter that has gone up in the air. So, yeah.
Right. And how many public restrooms are really that clean?
I really don't think there's a lot. Although I do choose my gas stations when I'm on road trips based on which ones I know have really good. Like Love's has really good bathrooms.
So I go to Dallas frequently because that's where I'm from. And you drive through Oklahoma and it's all the Choctaw Casino bathrooms. They're like not connected to casinos, but like the Choctaw casinos own these gas stations. They're usually really nice and really clean. So I go to the
Amazing.
the Choctaw gas stations.
I thought you were gonna say Buc-ee's or something. I was like, they do have good
No,
bathrooms there.
no, I don't. Unrelated, I don't get what the hype with Buc-ee's is. Like, maybe it's just because I'm from Texas and I've noted about them.
I don't get it either, but like whatever they're doing right because they're able to sell merch. Like what gas station can sell merch? Like that's crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
Even have like baby onesies. You can get your baby a Buc-ee's onesie.
I think
So
my cousin got his niece one of those. Yeah.
that's so funny.
But
Anyway,
anyway,
I think I think that's all we have for today. What a fun health audit.
yeah. Thank you everyone for tuning in with us.
All right, we'll catch you in the next one.
Thanks for joining us for another weekly reset. If you loved hanging out with us today, subscribe so you never miss an episode and share this with a friend who could use a little calm and connection too.
This show is for education and inspiration, not medical advice. To learn more or connect with us, check out the show notes below. Until next time, take care of your mind, your body, and your heart.